So because of little time and everything, I've decided to just show examples and explain briefly about the actions rather than step by step and the order of putting the actions and states and everything. If you do, however, have issues, feel free to leave a message or comment, or if you actually want a more detailed example, I'm willing to spend 15 minutes creating a more detailed example. So basically, in this example, I wanted to show another way of shooting projectiles and using uh, the mouse button down and how to freeze projectiles so you actually end up with a different kind of weapon. And you could use it to make again a different game, like maybe a kind of game that you try and reach another end, like I'm doing here. Although it's more normally suggested that you use a third-person character for this, although it's not really a problem. So you would like, and if you don't reach it, you die. So you could you can like try and also do this if you wanted to. So there's a lot of possibility. Alright. So basically what I did for this is I made a empty game object by going game object, create other game object create empty, and I renamed it to game object underline weapon manager as this one. And in there, my first state, I have a simple action called get mouse button down, which it basically says when I push left mouse button, please send the event spawn a cube and move over to the next state. And under event, I have the event called spawn cube, which I have assigned to the action get mouse button down, so it knows that when I push left mouse button, run that event, and the event will run to this state called shoot projectile. And here I'm using an action called create object. I have on the project created a prefab projectile cube by creating game object, create other cube, and then I just dragged it from the hierarchy menu over to the project menu to create the prefab. And then I had a spawn point, and the spawn point I have used by creating game object, empty game object, and putting it on the first person character in front of it, and that's where the projectile is gonna come from when I shoot. So that's basically what it is. And then that's what it does. It creates the projectile cube prefab and spawns it at the spawn point. And then you have to go into the projectile cube, and for that projectile to move, you need to assign translate to it. Translate is basically an action you use to move something, and for that I have used 20 on the set axis, because if you look at the projectile direction, the set axis is the blue direction and it's pointing towards the platform. So each time I shoot, it's gonna move that particular direction. So each time I turn around, it's gonna shoot that direction, because I have it following my camera. So if I look up, so you see it on both sides, it's doing exactly that. And then I use translate, and then I use get mouse button down, which is basically when I right click the mouse button, I want to send an event I created, which is I call freeze, and then it freezes. Now how does it freeze, you might be wondering. Well, basically what I did in this particular case, to make things simple, is when I created a cube, I went into rigid body and I froze all the position, the rotation and the position on X, Y and Z here. If you didn't do it, it would float like so. So obviously you could do something with that as well. Might be something else you want to do with that, but that's why I froze it. and that's all I did. So basically when it moves from translate is what makes it move, and then when I enter freeze it uses its default setting, freezes it, and that's it, and then I can move on to it. And I also turned off use gravity, because if I have use gravity on, yeah, and I didn't have freeze position on, it would have fell down. So I had turned it off. But because I've frozen it, I don't have to. So it should work fine. But because I don't want to use any calculation on it, I have turned it off. And that's it. I have a weapon manager using a game object, empty game object. I use the action get mouse button down. And when I click left, I use the event spawn cube. And in the second state, I tell it to create an object. And the object is the projectile cube, which I have created earlier. And then I want to spawn it on the spawn point. I call it spawn projectile cube, which is assigned to the first person camera on this first person character. And when it spawns from there, it shoots out the projectile using 20 on Z axis translate, and it's waiting for me to right click so it can freeze, and it moves to an empty state. And since I haven't assigned anything, it just follows the rigid body rule, and that's how it is. Again, if you need more explanation, more detailed explanation, I would prefer that people request it, and then I'll make some proper ones, because then I know it's not detailed enough. So thank you, and let me know what you think. Alright, bye.